Look at this beauty. This is the Nio ET5 Touring, freshly baked, brand spanking new, one of the first cars available in Europe, and this will be one of the first full reviews in 4K on the European market. You are watching It's Only Electric. Let's go. This car was actually created really recently, and the idea was born just a year ago, and now the car is already on the market. That's really a quick job from Nio. And I know that one of the design chiefs is actually Swedish, and he is partly responsible for bringing this car to life, Andreas Nilsson. I have actually done a video behind the scenes about the ET5 Touring where I interview Andreas Nilsson. If you're interested in that one, you can press the link here above. So it has the exact same platform, the exact same powertrain as the ET5 and the EL6 or ES6 depending on where you live. So this is a mid-sized touring car. The total length is 4.7 meters, the exact same length as the sedan version, has a wheelbase of 2.9 meters and weighs 2.2 tons. And that's with a big battery pack of 100 kilowatt hours of gross capacity and 95 kilowatt hours of net capacity. And that's the battery pack that this car is equipped with. So the big battery pack delivers up to 560 kilometers of WLTP range, but with the updated rims, the 20-inch rims, it actually drops to 506 kilometers. So this is an all-wheel drive car with two motors, one permanent magnet motor at the back and one induction motor at the front, combined delivering up to 360 kilowatts of power or 482 horsepower and 700 newton meters of torque. That actually helps the car to sprint from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 4 seconds flat. It's quick and has a top speed of 200 kilometers per hour. So the focus is clearly not efficiency when you buy these 20-inch wheels. It's more looks and performance. Tires, 245/40 Pirelli P0s all around. And this car is also equipped with the orange brake calipers. That's the same brakes, it's just the color, but that's extra. So that actually costs extra, of course, but it also gives you a penalty of 54 kilometers. So you will lose 54 kilometers, 506 kilometers of VLTP range compared to 560. Do you think it's worth the extra money to get the nicer looking rims, wheels, or would you go for the extra 54 kilometers of range? Let me know in the comments below. So as you probably already know, Nio is known for the power swap stations, and that's a station where you actually, instead of fast charging a car, swap the battery. So you can swap a battery in the new stations, the Power Station 3.0, in under 5 minutes for swapping an empty battery to a fully charged or at least 90% charged battery pack. That means that you can get over 500 kilometers of range in under 5 minutes. But on top of that, you can of course also fast charge your Nio. And really good news is that the Nio ET5 comes with updated charging speeds. So earlier it had a charging speed, DC charging, fast charging of 120 kilowatts. That's not class leading. It's rather slow, I should say. This one though has 180 kilowatt of peak power and has a fairly flat curve, which means that you can charge and fill the battery in a short amount of time. So now it's not only possible to swap the battery in a quick way, you have a second alternative of fast charging for real this time. And this really makes a big difference because when you travel around Europe, for instance, there is not a lot of swap stations yet. I think it's like maybe 20 or 30 different swap stations, but the network is building up fast. I think we have 7 here in Sweden. And recently I visited a 3.0 station, the first one in Europe actually, and tested to swap a battery. It took like 4 or 5 minutes. Don't miss that video. Put a link here if you are interested in power swap stations. But this is really interesting. So from being a rather slow charged car to not be the fastest on the market, but still be quite fast. You have 2 great alternatives, swapping and fast charging. When it comes to home charging, AC charging, 11 kilowatts, 3-phase support, nothing strange. Powered charge port, a bit slow, but it looks good. And by the way, it's on the right side, which means that you can really use Tesla's supercharging network. It's the perfect car for that. Let's move on to the moment you've all been waiting for. Let's look at the boot space. I mean, first, look at the back. I mean, I like the back of the sedan version. The same thing as on the sedan, the light bar goes through the whole back part of the car. Really beautiful, big logo on top. Powered liftgate. Also should be able to open touchless. I haven't got it to work yet. 450 liters of space. And the first thing you see here on the plastic cover is the text, "Blue sky is coming." How convenient. Blue sky, blue car, blue sky is coming. That's Nio's kind of a slogan. A really good addition and change is that you now can fold the seats in 40-20-40 instead of 40-60 as the sedan version had. So that means that you can fold the midsection and still have 2 passengers at the back seat. Some details in the back. You have a cargo cover, easy to operate. That's also detachable, and the cool thing with that is that you can store it underneath here. So there is a storage place for it, so you can stow it away without having it inside the cabin. That's really nice. A multi-level floor. So the first level is to make the floor totally flat, to make the loading and offloading easy. You can remove those for gaining some extra storage. You have a third level underneath here with some extra, maybe 10 liters of storage. Currently, emergency kit underneath there. To the right, there's no storage. That's the subwoofer. You can also equip your ET5 Touring with a fully electric tow hitch, and you operate the tow hitch from the screen at the front. So Nio's really worked on the practical and fun aspects of the boot. So there is a 12 volt, 180 watt outlet at the back, 4 big cargo securing hooks, some extra hooks here at the top. So for instance, when out swimming with your family, you can hang some towels here. Maximum load 2 kilograms per hook. Big focus on good lighting here in the back. So a big light here and 2 big lights at the back. This one to the right actually doubles as a flashlight. So you remove it by pressing that button and you can use it as a flashlight. SOS light, different modes, totally white, static white, bit dimmed, red flash. You can also switch to a traditional flashlight, and as soon as you put it back, it continues to operate as a normal boot light again. That's really smart. So now it's time to check the interior. Let's start with the back seat. I'm now sitting in the back seat, and the front seat is adjusted after my driving position, my liking. I'm 193 centimeters tall, or 6'3", so I'm a tall guy, but can still fit behind myself. My knees are not touching the front seat, but very close to. My feet is just able to squeeze in underneath the seats, but they are fairly low. And that's one of the changes, because the front seat now seems to sit a bit lower, closer to the floor than in the older versions, which actually gives the front passengers more headroom. A very big change and a good change is that now the headroom seems to be a lot better. I'm not even close touching the roof or the glass roof. It's 2 fingers of space in between my head and the glass roof. So that's really nice, and that's a big difference, because in the sedan version my head was actually touching the roof line when sitting, leaning backwards. In this case, it's possible to sit fully straight without touching the glass roof. So a big difference in the back seat, and there is plenty of room for 2 grown-ups or maybe 3 kids. So the back seat of the ET5 Touring is, I think, big enough for most families with 2 kids. No problem at all. When it comes to the seats, they are fairly soft, a bit flat, and not that supportive, at least not for your thighs if you have long legs, but that goes for all back seats in EVs because the floor is fairly high up. When it comes to convenient features, you have air vents here, manually adjustable air vents, so no screen or no temperature adjustment. 1 USB-C port, 2 would have been good, but at least it's a USB-C port. So seat heating in the both outer positions, not possible to operate from the back seat. You need to switch that on or off on the front screen. 3 different heating levels. When it comes to quality and materials, the inside of the doors is and has the same materials as in the front, so soft touch at the top and this rubber feel at the sides. Nice looking speakers covered in a fabric. A nice touch. Seems to be some speakers up here and some extra lighting. You also have holes here for fixing your cargo net when folding the seats on both sides. Another level of cargo net fixation is back here. So there's 2 levels and 2 possibilities of securing cargo nets. The view from the back seat is really great. I mean, this panoramic glass roof is amazing and gives you a really airy and free feeling. It gives you a good feeling of sitting in the back seat. You never feel claustrophobic. Even if it's a small car and low car, you still have the feeling of the room and a good panoramic view. You can also equip the ET5 Touring with a dimmable panoramic roof. This one has that. Now it's transparent. It has 3 different modes: transparent, automatic and dimmed. So in dimmed mode, it actually dims the glass for reflecting the sun out and not taking in too much light. Now it's transparent, as I said. The difference is not huge, but you feel it. You can set it to automatic if you wanted to adjust it depending on the lighting outside. So that's a convenient feature. Let's move on to the front row. Really nice looking interior materials, a good mix. This combination is called Star Grey together with Alcantara black roof liner. So we see here the A pillars and the B pillars are actually covered in Alcantara all the way up to the roof line. When it comes to the dashboard, a multi-layered dashboard with light grey leatherette, hidden ventilation, fully digital. You adjust it from the screen as you do in a Tesla, for instance. On top, also soft touch leatherette, black in this case. Numi, she's also extra, costs like 700 euros or 7,500 crowns, Swedish crowns, for adding that AI on top of the dashboard. On front of Numi, you have speaker covers in fabric. So I like the mix between leatherette and fabric and nice looking rubberized plastic. Underneath here there is fabric, but there is no glove box. So to compensate for the missing glove box, there is a big storage department underneath the mid console with a 12-volt power outlet and a fairly big and deep storage here in the mid console with 2 USB ports, one A and one C. This one is also possible to lock, so you can lock in things here by putting in a password on the screen, and that way no one can open it without the password. So that's a nice feature, and that really compensates for the missing glove box. Let's continue with the central department. And for you guys that have seen Nios before, almost every central department looks the same way. You have the same kind of drive mode selector, so it's a very convenient place. So you rest your arm here, and this is the way to shift it into drive. You pull it towards you, and on the left side here you have a parking button, and to put it into reverse you push it forward. So very easy to operate. It automatically switch on the backup cameras and 360 views. Let's turn that beeping off. So to the right of that one you have 3 physical buttons. The drive mode selector, where you can switch between drive modes, hazard lights, and lock and unlocking the doors. 2 cup holders, adaptive cup holders. Steering wheel, tidy, looks exactly the same as in all Nio cars, with really well functioning buttons for controlling the driving assistant, the driving aid system to the left, and the media system to the right, volume, shuffle, start, stop, etc. Driver monitoring with an IR camera, also a camera here at top of the cabin to monitor the interior of the cabin. Touch operated lights and a SOS button to call for help when needed. Seems to have 2 microphones here at the front for controlling the voice system and the speaker system when talking in phone. As a summary, the materials and design is really sleek and gives you the feeling of a lounge or a living room It floats on good and gives you kind of a calm feeling, and the dashboard at the front goes on with the same materials on top of the doors. And here you have some kind of a rubberized plastic with a texture to it that actually lights up really good during nighttime with the ambient lighting. And as in the back, the speakers here is also covered with this nice fabric. So this car actually has the latest release of the Banyan system, so Banyan 200. So you can actually see it. It's a big overhaul of the system. Looks a lot better now. Rounded corners, updated graphics. So for instance, the menus are easier to navigate. So now you have something called Nio ET5, and that's the health and overall overview of the car. You have a new 3D graphics that's active, so you actually see the lights also. Same color as the car is for real. That's always good. Tire pressure information on the screen. Information about consumption. Still leaves a bit to wish, because the tripometer actually only shows distance and consumed energy and not the actual consumption, average consumption. So I always need to calculate that. You get some of that information here. So it says for the last 100 kilometers, your average consumption 19.1, current 14.2, last 10 kilometers. That's possible to reset, but it doesn't show you the actual consumption for the current trip or for a certain tripometer. And that's something that I really wish will change in the future. So my Numi is for controlling Numi, the extra AI robot on top of the dash. But this is for controlling the brightness of that screen. All the things around the position adjustments are now collected on the same screen. Steering wheel, side mirrors, seat controls, etc. So that's conveniently placed in this menu. You can switch between driver and passenger. Doors and windows are also a new menu with different tabs. For instance, when it comes to the doors, you can adjust the height of the powered liftgate. For instance, you can operate the liftgate from here. Child lock controls, other lock controls, windows, and this is an interesting feature. This is the dimming mode for the panoramic glass roof. One menu for light, the interior light, ambient lighting, interior lighting, exterior lighting. Yeah, I think you get the point. The menu system is a lot better now, easier to find functions. The tabs and the menus are working better, and the collections of the functionality is more logical than before. One good feature now is that you can not only choose between charge a car to 100% or 90%. I think it said like travel and everyday driving. Everyday driving was 90%, travel was charged to 100%. Now you can slide this as a slider all the way between 100% all the way down to 50%. All the driving aid systems, the drive modes is collected under these two menus. And the first thing you want to do is to turn off the speed limit notification and overspeed alerts. That's actually the new features and new law from EU, from the European Union, to force the car manufacturers and the car to tell you when the speed limit changes, and then it beeps and blinks in the screen. And also when you go a bit too fast, if you go over 2 kilometers per hour faster than the speed limit for over like 5 seconds, it starts beeping. And that's nothing that Nio has done by themselves, that's by law. So we need to have it, and these bastards are actually reactivated every time you drive the car, and that's also by law. So I wish it was a more consistent way of doing it, but that's how it is, and that's how it's going to be for all new cars entering the market. Another recommendation is also to switch off Numi, the drowsiness reminder, and the distraction reminder, at least the distraction reminder. So immediately when you look away a little bit or look too much at the center instrument cluster here, Numi will tell you to stop and to concentrate on the road. So that's also very distracting and irritating. So I recommend you to turn that off. And whilst talking about the screens, this is a 12.8 inch AMOLED screen, so really great brightness. I normally operate it in dark theme. The black mode looks better, but it looks better on screen and is more clear now. The central instrument cluster is 10.2 inch, so two fairly big screens, perfectly enough for me. Gives you all the information you need. What I missed though is Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, so no support for that. The only thing you have is the possibility to connect your phone via Bluetooth to the car. Otherwise you have applications like photos, weather, media, the 360 view, the camera. This, by the way, is really good. It gives you a really good view. So the parking system is really working fine on the Nios, and that goes for all Nio cars. Good angles, and the software seems to work really good. I like this one, the wheel view, and that's how we avoid scratching your wheels against a curb. Really nice and neat feature. But the lack of Android Auto and Apple CarPlay is partly compensated by having decent applications for Spotify and Tidal. So that's good, and they are working fine. It's time to drive it. This is one of my favorite aspects of this car. It doesn't have any air suspension, no dual air suspension as in the big brother of this car, but it has traditional steel coils, and I like that. I mean, in this car, with this performance, with the 482 horsepower, it really makes sense, because it's really fun to drive. I only have 43% state of charge, but it still pulls really nice, pushes you in the back. I mean, 0 to 100 in 4 seconds flat. I have actually tested that. So if you're curious about if it's managing that actual 4 seconds, I recommend you to watch that video. It's on the way out, so stay tuned. But I can say it like this, it's a very fun car to drive. I haven't mentioned the seats. So the front seats does have seat heating as in the back. They also have cooling, so they are ventilated, massage and relax functionality. Relax functionality is the more softer kind of massage, works with air pillows, whilst the massage functionality is included in the comfort package, and that's more a real massage and has mechanical functionality, so it actually pushes you and gives you a lot deeper massage than the relax function does. One downside of the massage seats though is that I actually tend to feel some of the mechanics in the middle of my back. It feels like something is bulging out a little bit, something hard. That sounds strange, but what I mean is some of the mechanical part of the massage seat is actually, you can feel it with your back when leaning backwards. And that's not, it doesn't hurt, but it's not perfect. I mean, I guess the normal seats are a bit more comfortable when you don't have the mechanics inside the backrest. Other seat function is of course that both seats are fully powered, so adjustable, and you have a lumbar support adjuster, so you can adjust the lumbar in two axes, so Y and X axis as usual. So that's good and gives you some extra amount of support when needed. You also have a fully electric thigh support, extendable thigh support. So as in the other Nio cars I have tested, I really don't get that extra amount of thigh support. I can't touch it because I actually can't adjust the front of the seating position as high as needed to get it to support my legs. I guess my legs is a bit too long. But other than that, I think the seats are okay. Not the best seats in the segment. Let's continue talking about the drive modes. There is a couple of different drive modes. So Comfort, Eco, Sport, Sport Plus, and Custom. And as I usually recommend, adjust the custom drive mode of your liking and drive on that one. That's the best way of doing it. My favorite aspect of that is actually the Sports Plus mode. So the quickest acceleration, 4 seconds flat. I set the regen to standard. That's the highest amount of regen. There is no support for one pedal driving. I set the steering to steady because comfort and standard is a bit too soft for the performance that this car has. And the climate control is set to eco when not too hot outside. Then you will save some energy and maybe compensate for those extra accelerations you do all the time. But there is no active suspension, so it doesn't matter. The drive modes doesn't adjust the suspension at all, but the suspension gives you great control. It is really not too harsh, and there is not too much body roll. There is a bit of a body roll, but this is a fun car to drive, and it's really immediate. The control of the steering wheel, especially in steady mode, gives you a very direct feeling. And comparing it to the EL7 I just drove with the air suspension, or other cars with air suspension, you get another kind of a feeling. You get more of a touch with the road. You get more in connection with the driving, with the dynamics of the car in a different way than you get with air suspension. And this car really manages to give you a sporty feeling, and the center of gravity is so low since it's not a SUV. It's more fun to drive than a Model Y, for instance. This is more like a Model 3 performance and has similar performance also. It's a bit heavier, and you feel that, but the control, the turning is really good. It's a really inspiring car, and when I floor it, it really stays to the ground, never loses grip, never behaves strange. You can also change the drive mode by pressing the two outer controls of the steering wheel. If you hold it for like 1 second, it gives you that sound. Activate Sport Plus mode, and some nice animations both on NUMI screen and on the instrument cluster. You can deactivate that by pressing it again, and it reverts back to the drive mode you had before switching to Sport Plus. When it comes to comfort and noise, as I said, the suspension is not the most comfortable one, but it's better than the steel suspensions in Tesla. It's more comfortable, but at the same time gives you the right amount of driving performance. So I think it's a good mixture in between too sporty and too comfortable. I think this is the way I like the suspension. Really nice. And the other aspect of comfort is, of course, noise, cabin noise. This is not the most silent car I have driven. It's a lot more noisy than its bigger brother, the EL7 or the ET7. I mean, those cars are really silent. There is a bit of a road noise because of the tires, and the tires are not worn in yet because this is a brand new car. Just 1,000 kilometers put on the odometer. The car is 10 days old, so I'm one of the first persons driving this car. So it takes some time to actually worn in the tires and to lower the cabin noise a bit. But despite that, I mean, you get some road noise, and there is no acoustic glass on this car. There is no option for speccing it with acoustic glass. But despite that, it's a fairly silent cabin. Feels on par with the BMW M50, and feels a bit more silent than the Tesla Model 3 and also the Tesla Model Y. Now, bear in mind, I haven't tried the newly Highland updated Model 3 yet. That one should be up to 25% more silent than the current version. So that one is probably on par with this one. Would be a great comparison. Maybe I can do that later. Let's hope so. Because I think Tesla Model 3 is the biggest competitor to the Nio ET5, the sedan version. But I really think that Nio in this case has an edge on Tesla when it comes to practicality. I mean, the space in the Model 3 is really good, but the space in this one is a bit easier to utilize because it's a station, it's a touring. That's a good point. What do you think? Which one would you prefer? The Nio ET5 Touring or the Tesla Model 3? Which one looks best? Which one gives you the best package for the money? Let us have a discussion. What I really like is that the ET5 Touring has all the bells and whistles you want to have. You have all the equipment, the luxury, the exterior looks. That's, by the way, amazing. I can't find a single bad angle of this car. I think this looks better than the sedan version, as I told you earlier. This is the best looking Nio at the market currently, and one of the best looking cars at the market, electric cars at the market currently, and I'm really impressed. And the cool thing is that it's not only hardware and looks, it's also software. Nio seems to be able to carry out updates and evolve their software too. I mean, they have all the things that you need: the pet mode, child protection mode, camping mode. So all such things is also possible to utilize in this car. You have features for all of that. So for instance, when you enter the pet mode, it keeps a certain temperature inside the cabin and also shows you a nice message on the screen, exactly as Tesla does. So sometimes copying functions is good. Copy good things. So I will end this video inside the car, because this car is really made for driving. It's really fun to drive, inspiring to drive, but you still have nice comfort together paired with great performance. I think this is a golden mix between a SUV and a sedan. You get all the good aspects of this SUV with a bigger cabin, a bigger boot, but you also get the sportiness, the driving dynamics, and the looks of a sedan, all packaged in a beautiful car. When it comes to the price, this one actually costs 20,000 more, 20,000 Swedish crowns more than the sedan version. That's 2,000 euros in the difference. So that's the premium you pay to get a more practical car. For me, that's a no-brainer. I will go for this one immediately. So this one costs 840,000. It has the big battery pack. It's fully spec'd. Comfort package, dimmable glass roof, 20-inch wheels, orange brake calipers. So it's spec'd with everything you can spec it with. So that's 74,000 euros for the fully specified ET5 Touring. But then you own the big battery pack. So that's as expensive it can get if you buy this car. But the entry levels is where you lease the battery pack. So you can buy the car, but lease the battery pack. And you can choose which battery pack you want to lease, the small pack or the big pack. And that comes to a different price, of course. But into this leasing, you actually get a certain amount of swaps. I think it's currently 2 swaps a month that you get built into the leasing fee. And the leasing fee for the big battery pack is actually 3,000 Swedish crowns, or just under 300 euros a month. The leasing of the battery, of course, also makes sure that your battery never runs out of warranty, because, I mean, you're leasing the battery. Nio will make sure that the battery pack always has a good condition. And you for sure will swap away your battery anyway, so they need to keep the battery conditioning good in their swap station. So I think that's a very interesting package to buy the car, the fully specified car, but with leasing the big battery pack. Then I think you may be getting the best of two worlds. A good entry-level price, but also a perfectly conditioned battery all the time. And also the possibility to get updated technology. Let's say that Nio changes the battery chemistry in 2 years. And then you go with your car, swap it in a swap station, swap the battery for another battery pack whilst going on a long trip. And suddenly you realize that you swapped out your old battery pack with a new battery pack with a bit higher capacity because it's newer, and possibly also a new chemistry that gives you maybe better driving dynamics during winter, better battery conditioning, or a bit longer range. So that can be a very positive upside of leasing the battery pack. But I think I have been talking a lot today a bit too much. This will be a bit too long video for you guys, and I'm sorry for that, but there is a lot to talk about. By the way, I hope you enjoyed this video and all the information I just gave you. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And as I always say, stay electric. Thank you for watching. Speak to you soon.